Beautiful souls. Hello, hello. Wow. I haven't made a video in a really, really long time. And I'm just coming out of being sick. So thought I'd give a little update. What's been happening, at least for me, and what I also see happening collectively. Um, wow, what a busy December is always such a busy month. I mean, having 3 kids, it's like everything just gets put on fast forward, right? There's all kinds of school stuff, and not to mention cookie baking and all of the um, the family time, watching movies together, having dinners together. Um, so it's not all bad, but it's a lot of expectation. And regardless of how you feel in the moment, right? It's things that are planned ahead and you're like, oh, I kind of wish I had a date night, you know, in my bed by myself, if you know what I'm saying. And mainly just to rest because, we are in this, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, into this winter time of going within. So, man, I've been traveling like crazy too. Add that to all of the other crazy projects that I've had going on. But, it's one of these things of, make hay while the sun is shining. Because, having the kids off school is a great opportunity to travel with them. And then I had an opportunity to travel by myself, which I don't often have. So it's just good, all good stuff. But then I got sick. So, after spending time in Arizona with Joshua and then spent, Christmas at home, luckily I had listened to my intuition about what day to fly back home. I tell you what, is this what this video is about? Divine orchestration. We don't always see the big picture in the middle of what we're, when we're making decisions and we're making plans, and we just feel in, right? And some people, they might call that their gut. Some people might call it their intuition. Some people might call it their sixth sense. Whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But I know that for me, when I was making these plans to leave for Arizona, I really wanted to be gone until Friday, like 2 days before Christmas. I thought that should be plenty of time to get back. And, what's funny is that at that time, I checked the weather forecast for here. It was super, super cold then. And it looked like there was supposed to be snow coming in on that Thursday. And so I was like, oh, whatever it was, it pushed me to schedule my returning flight on Thursday, which I did. On that Friday here near Seattle, we had freezing rain. And everything pretty much was blanketed with a layer of ice. And most flights were canceled that day. If not because they couldn't land. There was only one runway open. But there were also big, huge storms everywhere else. And so the planes were getting stuck elsewhere. So I was like, oh my gosh. I made it home in time for Christmas and then took the kids to Vancouver. Oh, and Christmas was amazing. Had my mom over. Everybody was healthy enough for my mom came over and Matt came over and of course the kids, and we had a great dinner. And then went to Vancouver for several days. And then right before New Year's, got sick. And that was what, about 9 days ago? And I am just now feeling much better. Like I might leave the house today. I seriously haven't left. Many of those days, I seriously just stayed in bed, from the bed to the couch, and was very high fever and in and out of sleeping and just, ugh. But this whole thing of divine orchestration, this inwardness that has happened as a result of this being sick is very interesting. I was isolated, not only from my children, but from pretty much everybody. I mean, obviously I have, people I can talk to on the phone and whatever, but it was interesting to not even really want to do that. Yeah, and then all of these messages started to come in about how the divine feminine is changing and this new cycle of evolution, and how so many of us have, in one way, shape, or form, found ourselves as martyrs in the, looping and victim consciousness in this lifetime. And that a lot of us have empowered ourselves. We've been working through shifting away from victim consciousness into self-love and sort of an empowerment, an embodiment, right? But the next step is about partnership and about community. And those things are going to require compromise and partnership. Especially the divine masculine really needs us energetically to hold space for them and to do it in a soft way. It reminds me much of that, divine mother energy where, if somebody comes to you and they, are grieving, that what you say, what do you say? There is nothing to say. It is a process that these people are going through individually. And so to just hold them, embrace them, and the word accept them as they are showing up now in all of the emotion. Because especially men have been programmed to not show much emotion. A lot of it is kept within or maybe expressed individually, but it's usually, we were told not to share that, right? That you weren't a man. Time to be a man. What? So I gotta say, that's one of the things that I admire the most about Mac, is he is such a deep feeler. And he also is processing for the collective in such a deep way. And so I get to see it, and he just lets it flow right through him. And I just want to hold him. And what I really want to do is turn the pressure relief valve a little bit and help him, like literally, with this purging of expectations and purging of programming and purging of, it's almost like what I feel coming up is this deep internalization of not measuring up. And it's this not measuring up to this illusion, this societal bullshit that has been put into our head, maybe through media, maybe through our families and, the different conversations we've had. But it's time to let go of that. I mean, what I really have felt deeply is that, these, ooh, my ears are ringing, is that these divine masculines, I mean, they understand that they are here performing a role as a masculine to protect, to care for in a lot of the ways financially, like the way that you would take care of your family, protect them, provide security, provide somewhat of a stable existence. And with the way that the financial situation's happening now societally, it's harder and harder and harder to feel secure about what you're providing and whether that's going to be enough. And, so a lot of guys are getting into this future tripping thing of worrying about not being enough, of not providing enough, of not measuring up to society standards. And at the same time, a lot of them are coming online a lot more emotionally. And so sometimes they feel like, maybe they've missed out on a lot of things, and there is this deep grief. I know that as Divine Feminine, that was definitely something that I went through several years ago, of this deep grief for the existence that I was living before I was more fully embodied. And it sounds silly because we're just transforming and growing. There's no need for judgment, but there is just this grief that comes up when you realize, as you expand and your consciousness shifts, at least for me, I went into this, what could have been. And I didn't stay there long, but it's happening. Anyway, so good job, guys. Keep the good growing happening. And gals, I mean, we've been growing for a long time. And remember, this is not just according to gender, because we have both polarities within us. And so if you have tended to really embrace that divine masculine aspects of yourself, and you are showing up here as a gender woman, you're probably going through this too. But this idea, and for the woman, for this divine feminine message that keeps coming in for me, is just to surrender. And it's not surrender to anyone. It's not a surrender to. It's more of a surrender in service to the idea that we can accept what is showing up in front of us, hold space for it, and we don't have to have it in our lives all the time. But we can accept it now, energetically, and provide this deep service of love and acceptance for people that have never felt truly accepted, ever. So consider how that might be showing up in your life, and how you might be able to be of assistance to somebody. I mean, we all carry keys and codes for each other. So don't get so caught up in yourself and your gifts. And you don't get caught up in the pendulum swings from being a martyr to this, I'm going to call it self-love selfishness. And we're kind of coming back to center into this. We're not compromising our authenticity, but we are giving from the heart. Anyway, that's what I'm noticing. And this opening and softening and surrendering is really important right now. And the importance of it is part of the messaging, because we are transcending our patterning. So, like, for example, I was noticing in a relationship that it felt very codependent. And I just don't want to be in that kind of relationship anymore. And so I ended it. Well, I just said, this isn't working for me. And several days later, my team showed me that it was my wounding and my expectations and my baggage surrounding the idea of codependency that closed me off from what was really good, benevolent, and a growth opportunity in that relationship. And I share this because we all have wounding. We can choose to loop in it, or we can choose to acknowledge that, yes, this is my typical pattern, and I'm going to be changing how I'm interacting in my world. I personally don't like the idea of just automatically like making decisions and like knee-jerk reactions to things based on my trauma and my deep wounding. With somebody like me with deep wounding surrounding, abandonment, but also betrayal, to allow these knee-jerk reactions means that my ability to connect deeply will be very distorted. If I am looking through a lens of abandonment and looking through a lens of betrayal or potential betrayal, potential abandonment, it's time to get real with ourselves. And this whole thing, divine orchestration and seeing all of the different ways that I have been validated. My experience has been validated. For example, I was raised in a family that was amazing. My needs, most of my needs, my physical needs were all taken care of. Emotionally, it was not so much the case. And so, I grew up like that. That was my perception. And I always kind of downplayed the emotional aspects because I was always told that I was too emotional, right? I was too much. I allowed my emotions to run me, blah, 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 whatever. But at Christmas, Mac was here and he met my mom and was having a conversation. And he asked her something along the lines of, Well, what is your favorite memory of Sally before she was 10 years old? And sitting here while watching the questioning, and I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool question. I never thought to ask that. Nobody has ever asked really about me as a child, like trying to get to know me through my mom and trying to bring her in because he was, saying how great I am. But she couldn't think of anything. And in that moment, my childhood experience was validated by my adult self now. And he had no idea that by, these questions or this line of questioning, and he thought it was a normal, thing, that it would be easy for her to answer. It was an easy way to connect. And all it really did was validate me and my experience as a child growing up with this. So when I say divine orchestration is occurring to me, it is everywhere. Synchronicity, validation for things like that, for example, the way that I'm shown that I am loved, all over in all these different ways. Is absolutely astonishing right now. And I haven't really talked about 2023, but I see 2023 as such an opportunity for growth. And when I say that, there are several words that just drop in for me when I think about 2023. And one of them is surrender. Another word is faith. And there's 4 words. The other word that keeps coming in is miracles. Expect miracles. And the last thing that keeps coming in is this might not be very comfortable, but it's going to be worth it. And there's that faith, right? There's where we have to hold faith. I love you. Hope you guys are awesome. There's a bit of sharing from me. I'm on the mend, and big upgrades as a result of this sickness, which is always so interesting to me. It provides opportunity for purging and isolation for purification. All right. I love you guys. Bye.